Hello, this is Frida Liu and you're watching The Shift Asia. Did you know that over 300,000 homes in Malaysia have no access to affordable energy and 620 million ringgit is spent on alternative energy by these families every year? In fact, 1.5 million people in Malaysia live off-grid and lack basic access to energy, and aiming to change that story is Raj Ridvan Singh from SOLS Energy. I know him as Teacher Raj. So good to see you again, although virtually. And you know, I got that information from your website, and I was actually very surprised to know that there's so many people in Malaysia, 1.5 million. You know, no, it is a big deal. But before we get into that story, like I said, Raj, I've known you for the longest time. I know you as Teacher Raj. What have you been doing with your other businesses?
Wow. So, well, again, Frida, always an honor, a pleasure to speak to you. You're such a powerhouse in Malaysia and love what you're doing now. So I run 6 different impact organizations, as I like to call them. Not really a fan of the word social enterprise, so I use the word impact organizations, and simply because we try to create value and impact and address social problems while we're creating a sustainable business. So in one of our programs our businesses called SOLS Smart, we do a lot of digital training. So we're trying to sort of bridge the digital divide between the upper middle income, the middle income, and the B40 community. So we do trainings for corporates, for governments on generative AI, drone, 3D printing, robotics, and sort of bringing that basic skills and knowledge to corporate Malaysia, and typically those working at the entry level, right? Because a lot of this training is usually reserved for the bosses or the managers or the management, right? So, and I was like, I think if you really want to improve the workforce, you need to have an educated and a skilled workforce, and that's what we do at SOLS Smart. And that's been going well. We currently work with the Ministry of Digital, and we train because it's a brand new ministry, and obviously, you know, the civil servants need to be trained and updated, and it's really amazing looking at how they're actually pretty enthusiastic. So shout out to them. So we work with My Digital and the Ministry of Digital in doing this. We also have an EV company called Charge Sing. You know, and if you see the logo, it's a man with a turban. It's sort of paying homage to my grandfather. And the idea is to provide very good quality, accessible home chargers, because we still think that ultimately, because of the long hours of charging, the most effective place is to charge your car at home while you are resting at night. And then we do a bit of trading. We do a number of other business. We do solar installations for companies, for large companies who want to outsource to a Malaysian workforce, because primarily and unfortunately, but it is what it is, all the solar installations you see in Malaysia, it's primarily done by foreign labor. Now, it's great to help foreign labor, but I think this is something that Malaysians can participate in, and this is what we do in the Solar Academy. So we also now offer this service in a company called Social Empresa that provides this to large or medium-sized solar companies who want to engage our company to provide installation services.
And that all sort of falls into this with the work we do with SOLS Energy, right? Now, how did you? Why is the plight of energy? You know, when did it come to your attention and action?
So, you know, somewhere in 2012, I remember reading a news article in the paper saying that Malaysia is the 3rd largest manufacturer of solar panels in the world. And I was like, what? Where are these panels? You know, and so I've always been interested in energy and infrastructure as a business. And obviously, you know, you cannot participate in oil and gas because you need a lot of money and a lot of connections and stuff. So I was like, interesting. So I found out that Malaysia was primarily exporting to the US, right, due to the embargoes in China. Then I dug further, and I found there was a number of small companies starting up to offer solar on rooftops, right, both from the feed-in tariff that the government had introduced back then. And so we started first with so I run SOLS Foundation, and so I said, okay, instead of training our underprivileged, primarily orang asli and orang asal youth in IT, why not train them in solar. So we piloted. We started supplying them with the skill set and the training and sort of the certifications because we wanted quality installations, quality service. And then we started getting them jobs in solar companies back then. Unfortunately, most companies in Malaysia treat foreign labor very badly, very poorly. And that really upset me because I'm like, okay, I understand that's how you have been doing it for the longest time with foreign labor, which again, I don't agree with. But you cannot do this to Malaysian. You cannot treat Malaysians like this, right? Living in a kongsi lah, no proper accommodation, insurance, salaries, EPF stocks. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I got very upset and very angry with the industry, and I was like, and lucky my education businesses were doing well. So out of spite, and I know this is not a good way to start a business, but I'm like, and hopefully you can filter this, but F you, and I'll do my own, right? So that's how SOLS Energy was born. The goal here was, I am going to create a business that will provide jobs to the orang asli and orang asal where they can earn good income and above minimum wage so that they can support their families back home while creating something sustainable. And this is how in 2015, August, it's our 9th year, SOLS Energy was born.
Right. So is this the Pico solar system? Is that what you're working on?
No. So we started with typical solar PV, which is where we put solar on homes. Pico Solar is something that we introduced about 3 years ago when we realized, hey, we started growing and we're now the biggest residential solar company in Malaysia. We got backed by 500. We're a startup, right? So we got backed by 500. In 2019, 2020, we got backed by Petronas that invested in us. And so we started growing. And then we realized that a lot of our students were telling us, hey, is there any solution? Because, back home, my family is still using kerosene lamps or still using candle. And the generator that the one main guy will have and supply one bulb per home is about 4 ringgit a day, and it's also of course noisy, it's pollution, blah blah blah, and sometimes it doesn't work, and it's just one little 20-watt bulb, right? And we're like, okay, so here's a clear problem. And then as we dug deeper, we found a solution. So there's a lot on Lazada, Shopee, all these solar lights. We tried all these things. They don't last. Like, it's good for your garden lah, right? Good for your pets to have light at night, but it doesn't really work in a proper residential home setting, even if you're orang asli. And that's when we came across another amazing startup called Sun King that was creating these Pico solar systems for India and Africa, and were like doing it in the hundreds of thousands. And they had a fantastic solution, which was one, either A, you can sponsor it and you have it, and the system can last up to 5 to 7 years, right? Or they had a payment system, so you pay weekly to this card and they give you a code and you can unlock the device. I don't think you can see it, but it's sort of in the corner there. But it's on the website, so you've got the photos and all that. So again, that's when we said, okay, we'll pilot first. So before I even got any funding, I started financing, so providing this to orang asli and seeing would they pay and all. And then Petronas got wind that we were doing this and like, hey, we'd like to work with you, right? Because, but first, can you tell us what's the problem? So then we did some very rough mapping to say, hey, actually there's 285,000 homes, which is 35,000 being in Semenanjung. These are rural orang asli homes, and about 250,000 in Sabah and Sarawak that do not have access to the grid being TNB, right? Now, the government, the ministry, Luar Bandar, all is trying very hard, but because they're just so rural and so spread out, it doesn't make financial sense for them to pull cables and pull the electricity, and it cannot sustain, right? So, and again, right, it's politics, right? And then we said, okay, but wait, we want to do this in an effective way, so we went and worked with 𝗙𝗂𝗃. So 𝗙𝗂𝗃 is Jabatan Pembangunan dan Kemajuan Hal-Ehwal Orang Asli. We said, hey, why not let's work together and you tell us what is the problem. And they're like, no, we don't want. We've seen all you guys come with solar lights after 2 days, 3 days, it doesn't work. You do it We don't know what
Okay.
quick fix. And because there are others who have been doing it, and we're like, no, listen, we've got a solid solution. These things last, and we'd like to pilot. So 3 years ago, we did a pilot. Petronas was very happy with it, Petronas Gas. And then from there, a beautiful relationship grew. And it started because we said, for every solar system that we sold to a residential home in Malaysia, I mean, in the city, Klang Valley or wherever, we would then provide one for the orang asli. So we call it the power to empower or one-to-one system, right? And then they're like, oh, okay, fine. So you guys are doing that, great. We're also going to sponsor with our CSR budget, and together let's try to solve as much as we can, right? So it was very, very forward thinking. This is one I must recognize. It's very rare that a CSR organization thinks of it as a 7 years. So we have a 7-year partnership with them, right? It wasn't 1 year, 1 month, let's go, 𝗘𝗍𝗀𝗃𝗃. It was like, okay, so over 7 years, we're going to help the orang asli and orang asal homes, Semenanjung, get solar. And we're also going to help NGOs. So that, because by putting the solar, then they save on electricity, which they can then use that money for other things that they need in the month. So that's how the relationship was born, and that helped us to really rocket speed that access.
And it's great, right? Because it's 7 years, right? It's not going to happen overnight, and that's the commitment. And like little things like lighting and all that, how do kids go to, you talk about education. When you don't have lighting, you can't see, you can't do your work, you can't do all these basic things, right? So in this period though, how many homes have you managed to convert?
So we've done, so right now there's a team with Petronas in the jungle. We've done about close to 2,000, sorry about that. We've done close to 2,600 orang asli homes, both in Semenanjung, and we've also this year gone into Sabah. So we've also, so it's about 2,600 plus, and we'll hit about a bit more than 3,000 before the end of the year.
Right. Okay. So you talked about the 1-for-1 program. You also have a donation program where people can donate a solar system. I don't know if you spoke a little bit about that. And so I understand the solar system costs 1,588. Okay, and that costs 1,588, but it helps a family save up to 4,000 every year. How so?
Yeah. So we did the math. Typically, they would pay for about 4 ringgit a day for a bulb. Right? And this is one single light, right? And just to answer the earlier bit, without light, I say there is no life. So for me, light is life, right? Because everything that you need for productivity, for safety, security, convenience, studying, working, everything you need light. And you need the ability to be able to charge your handphones, charge your devices. These are things that our Pico Solar does. Now, sort of coming back to, so the math is simple, right? It's 4 ringgit that they spend, and they spend this every day, which is really, really expensive because they're going to come up to something like 120 ringgit a month, right? And they get 1 bulb, right? And that 1 bulb sometimes is only for 4 hours because the generator shuts off, right? Because they're like, oh, you guys are sleeping, no need light. So that creates other issues, which is like if they want to go to the washroom at night and it's dark, and there's also a lot of villages, they have tigers, they have gajah, so ours is 5 lights, with 1 being a big sensor light. So if there's a lion, a tiger or a wild boar or it flashes and then they run away. And then if you want to go to the toilet, because most of the toilets are outside the house, right? Outside the atap house. So that's how it, and it increases. We did the mapping and we saw it actually increases their productivity 16 times, because now from 6 p.m. to the next morning they have light, right? And they can now, they can study, they can do their work, the women can knit, they can pack the stuff that they have, they increase, and it just absolutely transforms their lives. And if you watch some of the videos and the photos, you will see that they're just like, wow. It's like, and I tell people, how you get that feeling when TNB cuts out for like 4 hours or 2 hours, and then suddenly you get it back, you're like, so happy, so relieved. Right. That's exactly how they feel after about, over 100 of years of not having electricity and light in their homes. And yeah.
It's so interesting, right? The problems they have, tigers and, and elephants, right?
And gajah,
and coming
and
to your...
wild boars.
Wow, okay. So did you mention about the home solar subscription program? You talked about it. What's that all about?
So what we realized while we were installing homes primarily to the T20 and upper middle class, right? Because solar is still a significant investment.
Yes.
And again, we introduce you can take a loan, you can use your credit card, but again, to be able to afford that, you need to be of a certain standing, right? Financial standing. But we realized that a lot of the V40 and actually just people in general, they couldn't afford to get solar on their home, right? And we believe that every roof, just like how every house cannot do without an aircon, we believe every house should not do without solar. And so we created this system, and that we learned from the West, because it's very popular everywhere else in the US and Europe, to bring home solar subscription to Malaysia. So we're the first, we pioneered this, we worked with Gentari to do this, to be able to provide where people can get now solar with zero upfront, zero financial commitment, zero. You get it. On top of that, now the government will give you 4,000 ringgit incentive through TNB directly to your account when you put solar. And you pay us monthly based on what is generated. And we have a 20-year relationship with you where we look after the system, we take care of everything. And you now get electricity at 46 cents fixed for the next 20 years. So even if TNB goes up, which they do, right, there's a 4.3% annual increase based on the base study, then you are inflation proof, because you now have 46 cents for 20 years.
Is this available for every Malaysian home?
This is available for every Malaysian home.
Okay, all right. You mentioned a couple of things. You talk about EV chargers and all that, right? I mean, what's next for SOLS Energy? You seem to be, busy with so many things.
I think it's funny you ask. So I think the renovation and construction business is something ripe for disruption.
Okay.
I think so. We've learned. Again, with solar, it's a form of construction, right? You work on people's roof, you have electrical engineers, civil engineers. So, and I've been really observing, and personally, I've always loved to build stuff. In my life in Cambodia, I was building dormitories and classrooms and Timor-Leste, and so I was like, and then I was like, okay, I think the sort of renovation industry is ripe for disruption. I know. We've had, obviously, 𝗘𝗍𝗶𝘆 failed and shut down, but they're taking a different way. But you have Recommend who's killing it.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's one way. And I think the makeover guys do cool stuff with their model. Right. But I was like, but still, when you're a homeowner and everyone's got the same renovation story. So, alamak, after 2-3 months or 2-3 years, this damn thing not working, I cannot find a guy. And if you want cheap, you deal with a foreign worker. But after 2 years, he goes back to his country, and then you're stuck with the leaking or problems. And I think SOLS has been build a good brand, and build, I hope we build a good reputation. And since we already do solar, why not we go and build their toilets and extend the kitchens for the wives?
I need to be in touch with you on this project.
Okay.
We'll take it off air.
Thank you.
Okay, but thank you for sharing. It's always interesting to hear the different things that you're up to, and you're making an impact wherever, right? And it's always like places in the homes and all these things. So I definitely look forward to catching up with you face to face soon. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Of course, we've been talking to SOLS Energy, and you've been watching The Shift Asia.